So welcome to the first inaugural webinar of All in the Wild. Jason here. There's a huge team behind me that helped out with producing this and getting this going. I want to introduce my good friend and biologist and sessional lecturer and all kinds of things. Knows a lot about this world, Kim Cross. So thank you, Kim, for joining us tonight.
Oh, thanks. Thank you very much, Jason, for inviting me to be part of this. It's a good experience for me. It's the first time I've ever done something like this as well. Obviously, I've lectured students in Princeton and I've like this over a little different experience. So thank you for that.
Perfect. Kim is a little soft-spoken, so his mic might cut out sometimes, but don't worry about that, everyone. We'll make sure and try to catch it up in the chat, okay? So I want to just... Go ahead, Kim.
No, I'll try to raise my voice a little bit to use my lecture voice, my stern lecture voice. Yeah.
So please be patient with us all. We're learning as we go, and we feel like this is going to be a great experience for all of you. Why did we go ahead and decide to do this as All in the Wild? Because we know that things are a little different right now for all of us. All of us are being very responsible and staying at home, and so we wanted to bring something to you to enjoy your evening here while you stay home, maybe get you back out into the wild a little bit through some of my experiences. And tonight we're going to be talking about me up in the polar bears and on that Arctic Ocean ice and what it takes to get some of those images up there. So Kim is going to moderate. He's going to be asking me questions. Any questions that you guys have? I see a lot of people have the chat going already, which is awesome. You guys found the buttons there. Please fire any chat in, any questions. If we don't get to them, we're going to try to answer them after the fact, okay? But we're going to try to answer all your questions. Kim's going to be watching those. And we're going to have a kind of a presentation that's broken up into images and videos, and then some question and answer from Kim and from the audience as well. So we have a couple draws today as well for my new Earth Day print, Always by Your Side, and that will be halfway. We'll be drawing, and you have to be present as part of the webinar in order to receive that. So you have to type in on the chat that you heard it, and we'll be in touch with you to send it to you. And then there'll be one at the very end of this as well. And we're gonna have a chat here for about an hour, and then we're gonna basically see if people want to stay on. Whoever wants to stay on longer for question and answer, we'll carry on for another half hour after that. So, we're looking forward to a fun evening. So Kim, without further ado, did I miss anything or?
No, I think you covered off all the things. I put a sticky at the top of the chat with your email address. I know you have your email address scattered throughout slideshows. People can make sure that they record if they do need to contact you about the Earth Day print or about any other questions afterwards after the webinar.
Perfect. Kim, we need to hear you a little bit more.
Okay, I'll lean in a little bit, I guess. I might have to.
Everyone, you should know that we're in the wilds of Canada. We don't have the best bandwidth, not in downtown Toronto or Calgary. So be patient with our bandwidth. We live in the wild.
Right. Yeah, so I guess without further ado, the title of today's webinar is Polar Bears, the Arctic Ocean Ice and How to Survive It as a Photographer. So that, I guess we'll get things rolling with the first question that I have is, what's it kind of like there on the Arctic Ocean? What's the ice like? How do you sort of move around that? What are some of the things you have to watch out for?
Yeah, so the Arctic Ocean ice, we think of ice down here in the south as lakes that are flat, and you can travel across them very easily. Transportation would be easy across them. Any frozen lake would be solidly froze for the most part, except by rivers or creeks. But up there, the ice conditions are constantly changing. And so you don't have a situation where you have a flat pan of ice. You can easily travel. I'll share this image here, which I think kind of shows that. And this is a photo of a wolverine on the Arctic Ocean ice. Yeah, there you'll see it there. And you can see that this ice is very dynamic. It's not flat. It's very rough. You can be in situations where you might see little openings or leads where there's actually open water, and the ocean waters below are 1,000 feet deep, right? So you have to be careful when you're traveling in those areas. But the safest ice is actually these ridges you've seen behind this wolverine. Those are very safe areas. And if you ever get into trouble, that's where you want to be. That ice is kind of, I guess, molded itself together through pressure and pressure ridges. And that's where there's really what we call safe ice. So you're safe out there in those areas, but you have to be super, super careful. You can't take any chances. And I go with an Inuit fellow by the name of David, and it's neat. He talks about the color of the ice. And if it's green in color, well, you know that's thin ice. If you can't see any color, then generally you're okay. And we've at times walked up to what's called the ice flow edge. That's the border between where the ice is and the open water. I haven't stood up. I'm too chicken, but he's standing right on the edge, and it's just blackness down below. And I'm knocking at the knee, and he's standing there. There's thousands of feet of water below him, perhaps. It's very safe. It's very solid because of the color of the ice, and the currents or the wind just broke a chunk off. And so you might be standing on 3 feet thick of ice and be very safe, Kim. So the conditions are very different than down south. We really you can't understand it until you're up there, and you can never travel in a straight line. You're constantly meandering around and such. So yeah.
So in that photo, you're saying that's where different wind currents and water currents have pushed a lot of ice together, so they look even thicker at those points where it looks really rough and jaggedy?
Exactly, Kim. Those are really rough spots where the winds have come together, depending how the ice formed. All those different things, it'll really be dependent how that ice forms. And then the other thing that happens in that micro ecosystem, or that ecosystem in that area, those rough area spots, that's where actually a lot of players will hunt, because the ring seals will find little cracks in there. They'll scratch away from underneath the ice, right? And they'll find a way to get their breathing holes in there. So when you're looking for polar bears and they're hunting, a lot of times they're hunting around or along those rough edge areas. That's where they're hunting.
Okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, since it seems like such a dynamic place, is it safe? Like, what do you, like, I know you said you're knocking at the knees, so obviously you had some trepidation about stepping out there. Like, how do you know, I guess, where to go, and how to navigate in a constantly changing environment?
Yeah, it is constantly changing, Kim. You're exactly right. And how do you navigate it? Well, you make sure you're with someone who understands that ice. I mean, even myself, after years, I've been going to the Arctic Ocean ice now for 8 years. And even myself, I mean, I don't know the ice 100%. And I have a couple Inuit friends, Inuit guides up there that take me out on this excursion. And without them, I wouldn't be safe. They're very knowledgeable men. They're men of the land. They grew up there. They've hunted on that ice. They've traveled on that ice. They know what to expect and what to look for. So they keep me safe, Kim. There's no question about it. And I'll show you this video. This is a fun video for everybody to watch here. It's neat. I know you guys can all see my big hands here as I open this up, but here we go. just share this, Kim.
Water all there? So don't step there.
Don't stop there, otherwise.
Where can I step? How about here?
Say from here, you can step to this one.
Oh yeah, okay. Here we go. Not into the ocean. Woo! That's kind of fun.
If you don't, walrus, they're going to get at you. They're waiting under.
Yeah, so that kind of shows, Kim, that, you know, what's going on in those situations is that the ice is going up and down as the tide is going up. And if you walked into that water, you would go right through the ice. And as he jokes in that video, you may be eaten by walrus. Now, walrus don't eat humans, so you're okay, but you have to be super careful. And I've snowmobiled in an area where it's safe all the time. And 1 year, I was going through and snowmobiling through, and all of a sudden, I was kind of going with David because I saw some polar bear tracks, and David typically is the leader. But my snowmobile felt like it was doing this. It was kind of rocking, and I got ahead of David, and David raced by me. And he was just waving and waving. And I'm like, okay. So I caught up to him, looked back a little bit, and there was water coming up from my snowmobile track. And he got to that rough ice that we saw with that Wolverine photo. And he stopped in an area that was rough ice. And I said, wow. He goes, yeah, I didn't expect that either. He said, usually it's safe in this area. And it was very bright sun that day, so we couldn't see that it looked greenish. And he said, if you had stopped, you would have just went right through. So it was a pretty humbling experience that this ice, these conditions, you can't play around with. You have to be with an experienced person like these Inuit friends and guides, and they know what they're doing out there. And we grew up in the South, right? We know how to be out in the forest or how to do this or do that. But when you're up on the Arctic Ocean ice, you better have an expert with you. Yeah, no question about it.
So that there was a question in the chat that kind of, I guess, relates to that a little bit. So without landmarks, how do you find your way, back to camp or way around? So obviously, it's are important in understanding where you've been and where you're going to go. And
yeah. In terms of landmarks, it's impossible. You just have to go ahead and follow your track. We can get whiteout days or whiteout times where we've been out for 6 hours, and then all of a sudden we're coming around to going back to camp, and the fog rolls in or snow starts falling, and literally you're just looking beside your snowmobile to see the tracks in your headlights of your snowmobile. And then there's other times where you are purely relying on a GPS. You're just relying on a GPS. You can't see 20 yards in front of you, and you are going down a trail that you've marked, because you could go over a cliff. You could go into a rock. You don't know. You're obviously driving very slow, but it's very intense at times. And, this is the art. You wait for weather reports so that nothing's happening, but you have to be so aware of what's going on. And I won't lie, we've been lost where we did circles for 4 or 5 hours, and it's not a comfortable feeling. We've also been on the ice where we had to stop. We couldn't go anymore. It was just, that's it. It's whiteout. It's blizzard. We're done. We're in polar country. It's not safe to travel. There's polynyas up there. I don't know if people know what a polynya is, but it's basically where the ocean currents kind of circulate a lot. The ice never freezes, but it might be covered in snow. And if you drive across it, you're going in. And those exist in that area, and so we have to be ultra careful. I'll show you this video. Whoever asked the question, but I'll show you this video that shows us having to just stop in the middle of the Arctic.
Yeah, sorry, that was Monica. Monica.
Thank you, Monica.
My mitts are frozen.
Yeah, mine too.
And Kim, I just want to share this one too, just to show people of how these blizzards can be.
Talk about cold weather. Look at this Arctic here. How this is amazing. Gotta love it.
I mean, it's just insane. You really can be up there, and imagine our rainstorms down here in the south that are just raining, and that's the snowfall. And there's 70-kilometer-an-hour winds, and you can't navigate. So we rely on GPS in those situations. But David has the ability to build an igloo, as you saw in that first video. And he built us an igloo right there, and we stopped. Kim, I can't hear you.
Sorry. Helps if I turn on my microphone after the video, right? I guess we had a little bit of looked like we had a little bit of a glitch about 5 minutes ago. Looks like a few people had their screen frozen. So we may have missed response to your question from Monica about how you find your way back from in certain situations. Ask of that, I guess, please.
Okay, so did you catch the part about us traveling back or not, Kim?
It wasn't me that had a screen. It was a lot of attendees out there.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, GPS, anything like that, we can get whiteout conditions where we have to basically just be watching our snowmobile track on the way back. Yeah, it's very, very dangerous at times, and you can feel like you're lost, and we have been lost at times doing circles. Yeah, that's the short version of that answer. Yeah. I hope that helps.
A couple questions about that very first image that you put up. One from Darcy, and there was one earlier, I apologize, from Russell, about the Wolverine. How far out do you have to go to get images like that, and are Wolverines common on the sea ice, or are they more closer to land?
Yeah, the photo of the Wolverine. Wolverines will very much be out on the ice at times. They will be cleaning up. They're kind of cleanup specialists, so they'll be cleaning up anything that kind of gets left behind by a polar bear. Or if a polar bear hunts a seal or something like that, then you're going to see Wolverines, and they're not a common species. They're actually quite rare. But on the polar ice, because it's so flat at times when you're up high, because we go on top of these hills and glass to look, you'll see a little brown spot running across, and they have this lope to them, and so that's a Wolverine. Do you ever get close to them? Oh goodness, no. They're incredible. If they sense anything at all, they're going the other direction at about 150 kilometers an hour. Well, not really, but they're just getting out of that area, right? They really are leaving. yeah, they're very shy animals. So given that question, Kim, I think we should do a poll right now. How many people we're going to have a poll on your right-hand side here. How many people have seen polar bears in the wild? Here we go. It's going to be on your right-hand side. We'll let you guys answer. Oh, 100% no.
I would have to include myself in that as well. Yeah. Yeah. I guess as people are answering the poll, one thing I guess now that I kind of think about wolverines, they have absolutely this range, like kilometers and kilometers and kilometers. So I guess it wouldn't be.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Kim. Actually, wolverines really, they do have a home range, but males will actually have 3 or 4 families that they service, and they're really just kind of move with the food. Wherever there's kind of food is what they're kind of going after. So their ranges can be incredible, and they can travel up to 100, 120 kilometers a day. They have this constant kind of loping that they do. And I always joke, they must be amazing marathon runners because they just keep going. So, ooh, are we going to end our poll?
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
There you go.
Almost 20% said yes. That's pretty impressive. I had some comments in the chat here. They were rolling through pretty quickly, so I'm sorry if I didn't grab names, but I just saw that some people have been to Churchill and Thompson. So that's Harry and Darcy that I saw as it kind of mentioned that they.
Awesome.
Now, some of the people are saying they missed the igloo building video, but it kind of leads to my next question. It's like, and actually a question that was much earlier in the chat window as well. I'll grab the name so I'm not holding up time. But it's like, how do you stay warm out there? Like, where do you stay? What's your eating regime? That was kind of the specific. Like, do you have a specific regime? Do you have a certain sort of lunch? And do you have a shower? Do you go au naturel out on the sea ice and polar bears?
Kim, if you're asking if I showered today, the answer is yes. I showered today. I'm not
okay. That's good. Yeah, I think I managed that as well.
Anyway, I just want to say, I think some of you are late to the presentation because we had done a pre-recording where we were practicing. So just to be clear, we're a little bit ahead, but you will catch up. And Kim, maybe if you can put that in the chat, that we apologize for that, but they're going to be catching up right as time goes. So if you came in late, you're going to get the start of the feed and you might be 5 or 10 minutes behind. But some of you are right on with us. You will see some of that as you get into the chat. So maybe just tell them that their feed might be a little delayed. Okay. Sorry about that, everyone. That was our mistake. We're learning this new webinar here. Okay, so in terms of your question, Kim, I think it's an excellent question. How do we survive and how do we stay? Well, I'll show you guys where we actually are right here. That's where we stay. So if you look at the image on the left, you can see that there's snow inside, and we leave the building open. We're not there because the bears, as you can see at the very back of the building, actually tore a part of the plywood off. They were trying to get in. So we've learned if we leave a door open, door off, the bears will come in, and you kind of see the polar bear tracks inside of the bunk, but they didn't do much damage. On the right-hand side is our shack, as we call it. We call it the Chateau Arctic, I guess, and that's where we are for literally 2 weeks at a time, and it's intense. I always lose 15 pounds of weight on this trip. Yeah, your body is trying to stay warm. It's a very cold environment. It's about average temperature of minus 20 to 30. The nights can go down to minus 40, even though it's April. So it's very cold. The wind can cut right through you. We don't use coolers to cool our food. We have nicknamed a cooler a warmer. So when we go out for the day, we put the things that we don't want to freeze into the cooler as a yeah, it's kind of what you think. So otherwise your food just freezes and such. So it's pretty. It's a different way of thinking and such up there. And in terms of showers and such, we actually now take in a portable shower, and we use a tarp as a shower curtain, and we bring it all down into a big pot. And we actually shower in the middle of the Arctic in that shack. David goes in glasses for polar bears, and then I shower, and then vice versa. So we always joke when we get back to the community, though, that once you shower, you come out and you go, "Wow, it sure feels great to have 14 days of buildup kind of off of you." So I feel like I needed a shower for 2 months type of thing. So it's pretty neat. But that shack is safe. I'll show a video here for everyone just to show you that even though it's safe, things do happen. So
that was Russell that had the diet question.
Oh, perfect. Thanks, Russell.
He's coming right to camp. Wow. Curious bear. We have an electric fence up down there, but we don't want him to get into camp and start wrecking things. Hopefully he just walks off. He looks very curious though. Oh yeah. He's coming to camp. Maybe he's coming for your bannock, David. Morning bannock. Young male?
So, yeah, I mean, you can see there that we have an electrified fence around that shack. We're safe. But even given that, Kim, Russell, we have times where the bears come and they get through our fence for whatever reason. We've woken up in the middle of the night to knocking on the door, literally. And it's a pretty intense feeling when you think of these bears and what they do. They're 98% carnivore. So, they're the largest carnivore in the world, and they're intense. So we bang pots together. We've only had to shoot off bear bangers a couple times to move a bear out of the area. We're very, very careful with everything that we do. And we're safe in that shack. I feel very safe there. In terms of gear, Kim, many different layers, many warm, layers of warmth. I wear at least 3 different layers in my feet, even though my boots are rated for minus 100 Celsius. You can't get wet. You have to have wicking clothes that are wicking from you, because when evening comes or if the wind goes up on you, you will become instantly cold. And of course, hypothermia is always a risk. Now, David, on the really, really cold situations, we had one time where he had to get me halfway back to the community, and I was not in shape to be able to travel very well. And he put me completely in skins, in caribou skins, because he knew that I would be very cold on the comet sled behind. And I was safe. Last year, Solomon and I stayed out on the ice overnight to capture an amazing image, which some of you know, A Beautiful Beginning. And we that middle of the night period, right in the middle there, I mean, it was so cold. We were jumping up and down just to try to. That's why you lose 15 pounds of weight, because your body is just working so hard. And one year I had a lot of the Inuit people up in the north, they have very black kind of areas here on their cheeks. And that's because they've got frostbite so much over the years that their skin tissue has kind of died. And I came back one year from the north, and I just had a little crack between my goggles and my ski mask, because I wear goggles all the time. And just a little crack, and I had these black lines here, and I thought, well, I'm probably going to have them for the rest of my life. I guess I've earned my Arctic, but they went away, thankfully, and such. But it's harsh. It really is an intense, and you've got to be prepared, and you've got to be ready. And most of all, again, I just want to iterate. You got to have people who live up there. They know that land. They're incredibly well able to adjust on the fly. They take everything in stride. If there's anything I've learned from them, they live in the moment and deal with that moment. They just try to work with that situation. We had a snowmobile breakdown one time, Kim, and basically the engine, a bearing in the engine went, and my guide, bearing in the track of the snowmobile that fit. He took the whole motor apart, bearing in, kept going. We kept going. We had 6 more days of the trip, and that's what they do. And anytime there's a situation, they immediately look on the ground. Is there something I can find? Or it just, everything is right there, and they figure it out as they go.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, you got to be willing to go with the flow, obviously.
Yeah,
a lot of practical skills of just how to quickly fix up things, I guess, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, jack of all trades, I suppose, helps.
Yeah, you got it.
Well, we're about the halfway mark.
Yes, we are.
To throw it a draw before we move on, or?
I think we should. Let me show everybody the picture that we're drawing for tonight. The new Earth Day print. And Kim has got all your names in a hat. And you will be winning a Magic 5x7 of our newest Earth Day print. Here it is. Just let me show it to them, Kim. It is your side. Amazing experience with this mother bear and her cub resting on the ice. About 100 meters away I was for a better part of the afternoon. And as the evening lights started to drop, we decided to leave, and they snuggled in for a sleep. And this was a great photo that happened. So I'm very happy that it's part of our Earth Day annual print release. So we're going to draw for our first name, and they have to come in on the chat and say that they're here. And then we'll be in touch with you regarding how we'll get the print to you, okay? Who's our winner, Kim?
All right, here we go.
Is my name in there?
Well, look at that. I know it's probably going to be backwards on the thing, but Jason Bantel. This is a big hat. We set this up. You probably, for those of you that, here's the real hat. I thought fitting for your talk in the. All right, so here we go. Okay, we have Paulette McCurdy. Is that everybody see that backwards on the screen there? Paulette
McCurdy.
McCurdy.
Cool. Right. Congratulations, Paulette.
Paulette, are you on? Can you respond in the chat to let us know? Well,
okay. In case she's one of the late arrivals.
Yeah,
go ahead.
No, I'll watch here, and we can always redraw again a little bit later for now.
Yeah, we want to make sure that the people are on the video or watching and present, and then we'll make sure. And if not, we will redraw. There's 2 draws tonight, so we'll make sure, Kim. Okay, cool. Is it time for a poll, Kim. I think we should do another poll.
Another poll? Sure. Yeah.
Let's see where everybody's from. Here we go. Where's everybody from? Ooh, looks like another part of the world is winning, isn't it, Kim?
The Western world. Western Canada is, it's bouncing around a little bit. Eastern Canada is coming up strong. Oh, no.
Kim, you really should be a hockey announcer.
Yeah. I was gonna say,
Okay, the end of the poll, there it is. 71% from Western Canada. 17% from the East. Okay, Eastern Canada.
Northern Canada is represented there as well. That's good.
Oh, another part of this beautiful planet. 5%. So all you guys overseas, hello. Yeah, thanks for joining. It might be 3 a.m. over there. That's awesome. Okay.
Related to your shower one, do you have a poll of for polar bear swimming? Has anybody ever gone for that polar bear dip?
No, I don't. I didn't put a poll in for that, Kim.
You didn't? Oh, okay. Darn. Yeah, I guess you'll just have to say in the chat whether you've ever thought of doing that polar bear.
Oh, but here's this poll. We could ask this one, given that we've gone through this. Here we go, Kim. Who's coming to live with me in those quarters up there?
Yeah.
Oh, 100% right off the bat.
Ooh.
It's
some no's are strong no's are coming in here. Yeah.
Wow. Oh, it's evening out. We're ending the poll. Okay, 53% are coming to live up there. Wow.
Awesome.
So make sure you email me after who you are. All of my assistants that I hire, you may have heard this joke before. We do a 100-meter dash, and if I can outrun you, you're welcome to come.
Yeah, it's not about how fast you run. You just have to run faster than the slowest runner.
Why don't we jump to that, Kim? Why don't we talk about, we were going to talk about that later, but why don't we talk about their speed and such?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Given that you said that.
So obviously polar bears are probably like any mammal, come in sort of different shapes and sizes, and obviously male and female, and you have cubs up there. So is there much difference in how well they move around the ice, or are they worried about falling through the ice if they're a bigger bear?
Yeah, so I'll show this video here because I think this really kind of sets this off to start with. Has Paulette responded yet in the chat? Does anybody know?
I'm going to do a quick scan through here.
Okay. I'm going to show the video.
Here you see polar bear tracks, a small guy on the left, a big guy in the middle, and, well, my size 14 boot beside his. You can tell they have big feet. You know what they say about a guy with big feet? David, what do they say?
They are so slow runners. They are so slow runners. They couldn't outrun anything.
There you have it, right from David.
Yeah, so when you look at them there, what you're seeing is the tracks on the left are a female bear, and the tracks in the middle are a very large male bear. And then on the right-hand side were my size 14 boot, Baffin boots. And you have to understand, that doesn't mean they're just size 14. Baffin boots are huge, and it almost fit inside of a male bear track. So with this, I guess before I go on, I want to ask people to answer what they think first, and then I'm going to discuss this a bit about how big they are. So we've got another poll for you guys. I don't want to inundate you. We don't have too many more to go, but this one is interesting. So we want to know what size you think the average weight of a polar bear is.
No Googling.
No Googling. We're ending the poll quickly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Paulette
Yes.
chime in?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Congratulations, Paulette. That's excellent. Congratulations. We'll be in touch. Okay, let's end the poll here. Okay. So 32% are right. Male polar bears are between that 400 to 600 kilogram range. Females are quite a bit smaller. They're in that 150 to, when they're pregnant, they might be 300 kilograms. Just before that pregnancy, they put on a lot of weight to be able to get through it. But there's a big but here. The largest polar bear ever captured and for scientific purposes and studies and released back into the wild is 1,050 kilograms. So 22% of you are right as well. It's amazing. They're huge. Male polar bears are the largest terrestrial carnivore in the world. When they're walking toward me, they stand at you eye to eye, and I'm 6'2" in height. They are a very, very large bear. Females are a lot smaller. Basically, this species has something called sexual dimorphism. Males are 2.5 times larger than females. And the reason that is, Kim, is because there's such intense competition to mate. You have to think of it this way. Female polar bears have cubs every 3rd year. And so there's only 1/3 of the population of females available to all the males. So there's intense competition. And the way that a female picks her partner is she goes ahead and she kind of delays breeding. She doesn't have an egg ready to fertilize until about 10 days after she's started to go into heat. That way, during that time, other males will come along and they'll have to fight. They fight. And whoever is the biggest guy is most likely going to be there in 10 days. So then she picks the biggest, the strongest male. And that's how she makes sure that she has amazing offspring, strong offspring, and big guys like you saw in that video with paws that are almost the size of 14 size boots. I mean, these bears are massive. They're just massive. You can't even understand how big they are. Yeah, massive.
Yeah, that's impressive. And I guess, being that large, it helps with the cold climate too, right? Like that's sort of, not sorry. Started talking like I was talking to my students there, the whole surface area to volume ratio.
Yeah, that's right. Well, you're exactly right, Kim. Yeah, these guys are so well adapted. At -30, their metabolism doesn't change. And we have to think of polar bears exactly opposite from humans. When it's +30 down here, except for me, no, I'm sure some of you out there as well, it's not that comfortable. But what I'm trying to say is that our body doesn't have to work very hard to stay warm. Polar bears in +30, their metabolism does what our metabolism does -30. So when I lose 15 pounds of weight up on the Arctic Ocean ice, when I'm there, they're gaining weight. And when I come back south and get back south, then I of course gain weight again. And when it gets warm for them up there, they lose weight. So they hibernate in the summers, whereas grizzly bears hibernate in the winter. These bears are better adapted at staying warm than at staying cold. So give them as much cold weather as you want. They're going to be fine. You give them warm weather, they're going to struggle just like we do in the cold. So it's exact opposite, Kim.
Yeah. Well, it makes sense, right? That's their environment, right? And they put up with it for many months of the year. I've never been to the Arctic, but I know you've studied Arctic, quite a lot. Is it true that some of the lakes up there are only like ice-free, maybe 6 weeks?
Yeah, yeah. When you look at the polar ice, I mean, you look at that ice. Typically, the ice-free period might only be 2 to 3 months in kind of the middle part of the Arctic and out on the Arctic Ocean ice. I had the very good fortune of sitting next to Andy DeRoche, who's a renowned polar bear biologist. He said, like, if bears are forced off the ice 2 weeks earlier, Kim, that's when they're going into that warm period and they're losing weight. If they're forced off 2 weeks earlier, then what ends up happening, if you look at a pregnant female, she basically has probably decided, her body has decided that she's going to absorb one of her embryos. She won't go through with that pregnancy. And so that's really that fine line. We'll talk more about that later, about the future of polar bears, but that really is kind of that fine line of where polar bears, if this ice goes, it can be quite detrimental to their survival, Kim.
Sharon just popped up a question here. So when relating to their hibernation, so I guess I'll just kind of shorten it down. So when do they hibernate? What's their time? Obviously, summertime then.
Yeah, their time of hibernation basically is what they call walking hibernation. So in the summertime, their body kind of slows down. Everything that a grizzly bear kind of does. We know that these aren't true hibernators. They just slow their body down. They conserve as much as they can. And they lose about 1 pound of weight a day is what they say. So, 2 kilograms, something like that, depending on the size of the bear. And so if you look at that, that adds up quickly over time. They're going to feed a little bit. They might find a washed up whale carcass or something like that. But what I remember years ago reading is that if they chase, like, let's say, for instance, there's lots of Arctic nesting geese up there. Why wouldn't they go hunting geese? I think I read something that they spend 30 seconds of energy chasing a goose. They've already used more energy than they're going to get to the goose. So they're just such high energy using animals. They're large. When that temperature goes up, their bodies just really, they just overwork. Winter's way easier for them.
Right. So when you, like, I guess I've heard you say, like, the mothers coming out of dens with their cubs. So what time? What's the actual time frame? This is Janine.
Yeah. So the mothers with cubs, they actually come out, like, moms will go into their hibernation. They come off the ice in July. Sorry, maybe I'm not answering clearly. And during the ice-free period, and then as fall comes, November-ish, October, as the ice starts to form again, they'll go back out hunting because they need that platform of ice to hunt seals from. If they can't get the platform of ice, they can't outswim a seal. Meanwhile, female bears that are pregnant are going into dens, and they'll have their little ones in January, and then they come out onto the ice more kind of in March and April, and then we get back to that June, July time where the bears come off the ice again for the entire year. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you again, everybody, for questions. I'm doing my best to try to keep up as we're scrolling through. One thing I forgot to mention is that hopefully you can see this. There's a little dot over. You make a comment. There's a little dot over on the right hand. You can actually then click that little dot, and then it marks it as a question. I can see a little bit more easily which comments are actually questions, people chatting and stuff like that.
Perfect.
Hopefully I should have mentioned that at the beginning. My apologies for that. Okay, so there's been a few questions earlier on. It was kind of interesting because it was just before you started, playing, videos of the polar bears running around and talking about going out on the ice. I think Monica asked the question, how do you find the bears? I think it was something along those lines again. I'm sorry, I just can't find exactly the question.
Okay, well, that's a great question. I'll show you a video here, Monica. Where is it here? Because I put that in here as well. This kind of shows bear what we do when we're out on the ice. Here we go.
Guess who's coming to hunt us? This bear right here. No question about it. He's coming to check out what we're all about and if we're potentially lunch. makes a guy nervous, but you hope your snowmobile's going to start. I just checked mine, so. But this is what these bears do.
Yeah, so you can kind of see there that I just want to get another image up here. Sorry. You can kind of see there how close we are to the bear. A lot of times what these bears do, Monica, Kim, and everybody out there, is that we will actually see these bears at quite a distance, and then we'll just kind of figure out what they're doing, go out onto the ice, and kind of wait and see what they do. A lot of times we'll try to be downwind, so they don't have our scent. Their sense of smell is very good. And what they typically do is they start coming toward, and you can see them licking the air almost. They're kind of licking the air, and they're trying to sense what you are. They're trying to get anything that they can from the environment. And one of two things happen at that point. Either A, they circle downwind and they get very curious in us and we have to get away. And that's typically middle-aged bears, male bears. B, they'll circle downwind and they'll leave, and we leave those bears. We might try to catch up to them and see if they'll, let us be kind of part of their life. If they get used to us, some bears will, some bears won't. C, some of them will just get very kind of, okay, that's humans. I want nothing to do with them. I'm just going to go back to my life. And those are the bears that we can work with and photograph and be a part of their lives on the ice. And those are just incredible experiences. And you don't get them every day. You maybe get, a handful in a 2-week period. But when they happen, wow, it's just incredible. Incredible. So the closest I've ever been to a bear, has not been something I wanted to do. I'll show you this slide right here. This is shot with a 14 millimeter lens. I'm not there. That is on a camera trap. But I've had some very close calls in the Arctic with these bears. You don't fool around with them. They need ultimate respect, and you're in their habitat, you're in their home. And there's been some times where things have happened not planned, and especially these middle-aged bears can be very dangerous. And my Inuit friend David, at one point, I was being chased by a male bear, and I flipped a snowmobile, and I was on the ice, and he parked right beside me, and he stood up with his hands in the air, and he roared. And as I rolled over, because it happened all so quick, that bear stopped at 6 feet from us. I'll never forget that, and I'll always know that you have to respect nature. You just have to. They play by their rules, and we can be on their list to eat. So, yeah, intense encounter. So we're very careful. The equipment I use, long lens, 800 millimeter lens. If David says go, we go. Solomon says go, we go. You don't say, no, just one more shot. You don't say that. You go, and you pack up your gear when you get away. So there's no time. These bears can reach speeds of a racehorse for short distances, and they do it in half the distance of a racehorse. So they'll get to 40 kilometers an hour. They'll be on you.
Right. Yeah. Well, I guess that answers Kirby's question. Kirby said how typically use when you're, photographing. So
yeah. 800 millimeter, you have to. The longer the lens, the better. You're not using the previous photo, the 14 millimeter at about 2 feet away from the bear. You're not using that unless you you want a death wish or something. So yeah.
Or you have the shower ready back at the cabin.
Yeah. Thanks, Kim.
Let's see here. Some other questions coming through is how long do the cubs stay with the mom? And that's coming Connie Lynn. And a related question due from Kristen. Do they use the same?
Do they what, Kim? Sorry?
Sorry. How long do the cubs stay with mom? And does the mother use the same den year after year?
Okay. So depending on the area of the Arctic, typically moms will keep their cubs for 2.5 to 3.5 years. It will really depend on how productive it is and how good a shape those cubs are in. And if they're in great shape, then mom is going to go ahead and she's going to let them go a little bit sooner. If they're not in great shape, she may keep them for another time. You have to also look at these family groups. As they get older, they can work with each other to hunt together. So we know that these seals will come up in their breathing holes, and the bears will be waiting on the ice, or they'll be stalking slowly to try to capture a seal. But if you're a mom with a couple cubs, these seal breathing holes, there's not just one hole. They have different areas where they come up for air and breathe. So what mom will do is she'll put a cub at one breathing hole, put another cub at another breathing hole, and then she'll go sit at another breathing hole. And I haven't seen this, but my Inuit friends have told me this. And eventually the little cubs get rambunctious. They don't have the patience of mom. Their bellies are hungry and, they're still nursing. So they're maybe not as hungry as mom. And they'll start moving around their little holes where they are on the ice. They'll move around and that's where the seal breathing holes are. The seal will look up and he'll go, or she'll go, oh, I'm not going up there. There's something there. Go to the next hole. Same thing, another cub. Go to the third hole where mom's not moving. So they can have a real advantage. I suspect. I don't have, this is just anecdotal information. Regarding the same dens, I don't think there's any research out there that would suggest they den in the same dens, but there's going to be certain areas in the Arctic that are known as denning areas. And those areas will be away from the ocean. They'll be farther inland because male bears could harm or could, basically kind of, harm these little cubs. So mom wants to make sure that she's safe. Wolves and other bears are what can decrease the survival of cubs, along with, of course, food and stress and that type of thing. But other bears would be a factor. So they den further inland. Do they use the same den? Not necessarily. A lot of these are snowbanks.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're starting to get close to our hour that we said we give you a main talk on. So I kind of have a question, I guess, about the health of the Arctic, I guess. And actually, there's quite a few people. I will apologize. I've just noticed that because of the chat rolling through, I actually can't. I no longer see some of the earlier and comments. So if I didn't get to bringing up your question, we are going to stay on air for a half an hour after our sort of time limit. But unfortunately, this platform does have to help with the video. So once we sort of put an official end to Jason, some of the other things that Jason will share with you, there will be a question and answer period. So if you didn't get your question, I do apologize, but please stick around and type it back in, and we'll do our best to get it answered. So when you, Monica is asking, how many bears are there? Are they still considered endangered species? I see here. Sort of where are you exactly? Is tourism, an earlier question was asking, is tourism having an impact? And just some other, general questions. I think there's a question about climate change. Again, I do apologize if I'm not grabbing everybody's names. I'm just trying to quickly
Kim, everybody in the chat, please, a handout to Kim. Kim's been doing a great job of moderating. You've been doing fantastic. No apologies, big guy. You're managing a lot here. So, in terms of polar bears overall, we know that Canada has about 80% of the world's population of polar bears. Polar bears populations in certain areas of Canada are very stable. They're not in decline. There are some populations that are very, very worrisome. Overall, polar bears are on the decline now, overall. Okay, so they are declining. And really because of that sea ice, you have to think of it, if we went ahead and we put a big hole in the side of our house, would we survive? We're doing the same. We're putting a big hole in the ice, and they can't survive that. So we have to think about those choices, right? We have to decide how we can mitigate our carbon footprint. What I'm seeing up north myself is that there is some change, specifically in ice thickness, because I remember one time with David, we looked down a seal's breathing hole, and he came up and he said, "Wow." I said, "What?" "The ice, it's only about 3 feet thick, Jason." I'm like, "Yeah, so?" When I was a kid, I couldn't see the bottom of the ice.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah.
We have to think about that. I mean, the area that I go to photograph these polar bears typically would be multi-year ice, meaning that the ice never would leave. These bears were used to never, ever not being able to hunt. Imagine how productive they were. So what changes am I seeing that I know are definitely changes and you know, not just anecdotal? Mother bears, we're seeing very few mothers with twins, and moms should have triplets, lots. And we're seeing twins occasionally, and we're seeing a lot of moms with one. When you do that math and you think of a mother bear having 5 litters in her whole life, and let's say she did have 2 cubs. Let's just say she did. So she would have 10 cubs in her entire life. Only a third of those are going to live to adulthood to breed. That now says that we have 3 cubs, split the sex ratio, 1 male, 1 female, the other one is a question mark. Now, cut that down. All mums maybe are doing now is replacing themselves population-wise. We can see bears starving. You can see some of that video, and bears are struggling. But the real issue with polar bear decline is actually the decline in the number of cubs mums are having. I don't want to end with that, though. I want to end with where I am. I'm seeing bears thriving. I'm seeing bears hunting on the ice. I'm seeing them in their environment, loving their cubs playing with each other. All of this, this species still exists. Be optimistic, people. We have the power through our choices. This is not over. This not at all. And I really look at polar bears as the canary in the coal mine. If we save polar bears, the cascade effect of saving a lot of different species on this planet will be huge. So what do we got to do? Recycling, reusing, those are some things. Those are part of the 3 R's. What's the first R though? Reduce. And so I have to ask myself, I do 6 to 8 big excursions every year to bring nature to all of you, to share my passion and the importance, and art is important. Maybe I only have to do 3 excursions a year. Maybe I have to do them closer to home. And I just have to think about everything I do. So if you think of your choices and you make the choices, and we all lead by example, and we tell people around us, we start a community of change, which that's what we can do. Polar bears are going to be fine. We gotta be with them. That's all we got to do. That's it. I want to show this video. This is such a beautiful video. I love sharing this, Kim. Please indulge me, but this is just, I love this. This is really, look at these bears. This is it. There we go.
I don't know if there's a more beautiful scene than this. This is incredible. Day 1. Mother bear nursing her 2 cubs. Wow.
Yeah, so that just shows it, Kim. It's amazing up there. It's a beautiful environment. These bears are just spectacular. So, you know, that's it. Yeah. Oh, Kim, you're on mute.
Is it time for a second draw?
Time for a second draw. I like it. I love it. Okay, but before we do that draw, I'm going to show everybody the picture. Okay,
I've already put it up there.
And then everyone, I'm going to put up on the right-hand side. You can go directly to our website and learn more about this print if you weren't one of the winners. And yeah, you can learn more. And if you decide you want to collect it, feel free. And then we're going to stay. I'm going to put that up right now, Kim, quick for everybody.
I threw it up there when you had the video running there, Jason.
Sorry?
I got ahead of you. I threw it up there when you had the video running there. Sorry.
Oh, okay. So it's already up? Okay. And so everyone, we have another 30 minutes. We know that some of you, especially out east, 30% of you, it's late out there already. It's 10 o'clock. We forgot to do the other poll. We were going to ask people how many people are drinking wine, but if you want to stay on for an extra half hour and fill your wine glass, we're going to just do purely question and answer right now. So if I didn't answer a question earlier, Kim is going to file through those and we're going to keep answering. Okay. So let's do that next draw, Kim. That's awesome.
All right.
I guess my name's not in this one.
No, I put the trick one away for this one. I did have mine too, but I thought it was an old joke now. All right, we have Todd Gilman.
Awesome, Todd! Congratulations. You gotta come in on the chat, Todd, and let us know you're there.
Todd, okay. Are you here? If not, we'll draw again.
Okay, before some of you might leave our webinar, I just want to say thank you so much for being a part of this. And I'd really like to go ahead and... what's that?
Todd's here.
Oh, awesome. Congratulations, Todd. Way to go. Okay, cool. Right on. And if we could just... end on a positive note. I'd love your feedback. If you want to go ahead and send me an email, that would be perfect. Would love to hear from you. And yeah, if there's any feedback at all, we want these to be valuable to you while we're going through this all together, staying at home and doing the right thing. So I want to bring nature into your homes for you and my experiences and my adventures. And so any feedback you have, I appreciate all the people who asked questions before the registration. I provided those to Kim, so that was good. Everyone at All in the Wild just wants to say that we're thinking about you. So my entire team wanted to say that to everyone, your loved ones, and hoping that you're all staying safe, healthy, and of course, connected to nature. Okay. And keep loving nature, everyone. And thank you so much for joining us tonight and discussing polar bears and all your questions. It was really, really a fun experience. Sorry about the kind of testing of Kim and I. You were getting us ad libs, so we'll make sure and delete those really quickly before the replay. This will be available replay, and I will be posting it on YouTube. So by all means, you'll be able to watch it again in case you missed some stuff. And Kim, did I miss anything at all?
No, again, there were a couple questions about equipment. So we'll maybe start with something that you kind of talked about right at the beginning, and it just disappeared on me. So I didn't catch the name again. But they were asking any theories as to why the skin is black.
Oh, okay. So the skin is black on a polar bear, again, for that whole reason of trying to stay warm. So their fur is actually a hollow tube, and it directs sunlight down to their black skin, which then absorbs it all. So these guys are solar or heat collectors. They just collect their heat as much as they can. They have a very thick layer of fat underneath that black skin. And if you put a thermometer at the surface of their skin, Kim, you'll actually find out that the ambient temperature outside, if it's minus 30 out, the temperature outside at the surface of their skin will be minus 30 as well. They don't lose any heat through that skin hardly at all. A lot of feet through the nose, different parts. But if you look at their big core, wouldn't be losing too much heat.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I'm sure they have a pretty good layer of fat under their skin to help insulate as well.
Yeah, I mentioned a very thick layer of fat. Yeah.
Andrea has a question. In your photo, the king, how far away were you?
Wow, Andrea, thank you very much for pointing out one of my pieces of art. King was a big male bear in a blizzard. And how far away was I? I can't recall exactly, Andrea. I know I was on the other side of my snowmobile. I know that David was right beside me. And I know that the bear didn't have my smell. And given the blizzard type conditions, wouldn't be able to see very well. Probably in that kind of 80 to 100 meter range, and not interested in us at all. Knew we were there, but we had been with the bear for probably about an hour watching him hunt. And he was comfortable with our presence. We would move around a bit with him, and he kind of almost wasn't even aware of where we were. Like, that's the comment that I said, I don't even think he knew we were there. He was just so focused on hunting. And those are the bears. We don't get that. Like I said, that's a handful of times in a season. We don't get that often where we get to work with bears like that. But when we do, it's just fantastic, really fantastic. And hey, I mean, it's Mother Nature. I mean, she's bringing these images to us all. I'm just capturing. Yeah. Thank you, Andrea. I hope you own the king.
This was, you did answer this earlier, but for me, you cut out. How long, again, do the cubs stay with mom?
So the cubs stay with mom for 2.5 to 3.5 years. Most times it's 2.5 years. It depends on the productivity of the area.
Right. Okay. Shirley has a question. Do you know how long the average polar bear lives?
So the average polar bear lives about 15 years, in terms of, like, that's the longest they can live. If you took in survival, it would be a lot lower average. But if they get to adulthood, they can live up to 15 years. Some might go a little bit longer. And of course, bears in captivity will live a lot longer. We know that grizzly bears can live 20 to 25 years. So there would be some bears out there that are 18, 19 years old for sure, but probably that average is around the 15.
Larry has an interesting question. It's maybe not a question that sounds very nice, but is there any predation on bears, like the bears?
Yeah, Larry, good question. I have never seen that or experienced that myself, but that does occur, especially in that warm season period where bears can start to get really stressed. So think of us, again, that analogy of we put a big hole in the side of our house, it's the middle of winter, and we're running low on food. We get pretty ornery, we get pretty hungry, and we're obviously humans. We don't act necessarily in certain ways, but bears might go ahead and yeah, they might go ahead and challenge each other. And if a bear injured another bear, they could go ahead and treat them as a source of energy for sure. Never seen it. Don't think I would see it in my time of year that I'm there. What I might see is male bears hunting cubs.
Yeah. I guess there's a question. Is that kind of, I know cats are notorious for this, that, where a male will kill the cubs so that the female comes back into estrus or what's commonly called heat. Is that similar in bears or?
Yeah, Kim, for sure. It is similar, that you can get situations where males will specifically try to kill cubs so that females go back into heat. That intense pressure to breed, and there's only one female for every 3 males. So you're trying to up your odds of getting your genetics out there.
All right. What other wildlife photographers have inspired? I think it's inspired you currently. This is from Todd. Inspired you currently or in the past?
Other wildlife photographers that inspired me. I mean, huge fan of a few different fellas out there. But there's a lot of new up and coming photographers. I can't list them off by heart from Instagram. There's quite a few. And with the technology of digital photography, it's just taken it to a new level. I think for me, what's really important and what's inspiring are photographers that are doing this to get a message out about the importance of nature. Thomas Mangelson, many of you might know if you're photography buffs. He's from the United States. He was incredible. His images were incredible. I mean, he was the guy in the 80s and the 90s. Some of the original ones, Art Wolf, some of the legendary people. And part of the reason that I have so much respect for them is because I came from a film background and I understand how complicated the images they got are. And not to downplay digital. I mean, we're allowed to get even more incredible images, like that close-up shot with the 16 millimeter. You wouldn't have been able to do that with a film camera. Well, you could have, but it would have been very complicated. So that transition into digital has allowed us to see a lot more of animals' lives. But some of these legendary people like Mangelson and Art Wolf, and there's one guy from, Dr. Lynch from Calgary area. Phenomenal photographers, nature photographers. Really got to put my hand out to them. And now having been recognized by the Natural History Museum of London last fall, I met some photographers there and some individuals that wow, people who have changed this world through their photography. The power of images, everyone, is more than what we think. Images, art, universal language. You don't have to speak.
Yeah, that's true. Well, what's that old saying? A picture is worth 1,000 words, right?
Yeah.
Sharon has a question. In the summer, how far inland will the polar bears go?
For the most part, they won't go too far inland. They for the most part will stay near the coastlines and such. Some of the mother bears that are pregnant will start moving further and further inland as they're getting ready for their pregnancy and such. But a lot of them will actually stay along those coastlines because, again, the ocean is that's their territory, that's their land. So they might find an iceberg they can get on. They're going to be on some of the islands, hoping that they can capture a walrus. Maybe they can capture a whale swimming near shore or something. I mean, they're going to be opportunistic, right? So yeah, some of that.
Cool. Lisa Marie has a question. What would an Arctic hare eat up there?
Ooh, great question, Lisa Marie. Arctic hares. They're eating a lot of the little vegetation underneath the snow and such. You'll actually see them paw and they'll dig down. I have a cute little video and there's old kind of old leaves and such. They're looking for some of the vegetation that's underneath the soil. They're eking out a living. It's amazing to see that, but they're using a lot of time. The other thing I've seen them eat, which surprised me, was some of the rocks up there have a black lichen on them, and they take liken to that lichen. So they eat some of the lichens and such. I don't know if people know this about hares, but they actually reprocess their food twice. So in terms of when they're eating, they will defecate, go to the bathroom, and they actually eat that defecation, send it back through their system, and redigest it again and get as much nutrients out of it as they can. I know that seems kind of, but it's reality of how they make a living. Yeah.
Well, I'll maybe comment on that too. That if you know a little bit about horses and rabbits versus cattle and deer will basically chew the tough plant material, but then in essence vomit it up and re-chew it and put it back down in their stomachs and re-chew it. So in a way, it's all. Whereas horses and rabbits do it the opposite way. They run it through the whole system, but then run it through again, right? Because plant material is pretty hard to break.
Yeah.
On your 2-week stay, how many photos did you take, and how many are usable?
Wow, great question. Who's that from?
Anita.
Who?
Anita.
Oh, thank you, Anita, for that question. It really depends on how many bears we experience and such. It can be in a good year, in a 2-week period, you might get 3 shoots where you shoot 1,000 to 2,000 images. So maybe 6,000 images. When I first started going up, I was still shooting film. And typically then I would have only been shooting, maybe, I don't know. I'm going to say about a quarter of that. Yeah, about a quarter of that. Okay. So, yeah.
Kirby has a question. Have you been passionate about nature all your life, or did it start later in life?
I've been passionate about nature since I can remember. I grew up in a rural area, and the biggest thing I looked forward to after school was getting outdoors. I appreciated school, don't get me wrong, but I just lived to be outside. I love looking in the forest for tracks and learning, and what was that about? And then some things took years later. Like I remember seeing snow, rabbit tracks through the snow, and then they just disappeared, and there was marks in the snow beside it, and then a couple drops of blood. Well, I didn't know what that was when I was 12 or 14 years old, but it was a snowshoe hare that got picked up by an owl. And so these things just intrigued me, and then the camera became my way of expressing that real love of our natural world and what exists out there, and wanting to share it with people. I've just really always wanted to share this passion and what animals are all about, all the little intricate things. I mean, the things you just said, Kim, about the digestion, and I mean, we understand so little. I don't want to get off topic, but I don't want to bring this in, but this pandemic really tells us how little we actually understand about certain things, and there's species out there that can help us through this pandemic. I've been reading more and more that we can actually learn how their systems work to fight off viruses, and we might be able to never know. Yeah.
Darcy is, because of some of the technical difficulty, Darcy's asking, are those videos that you were showing during this webinar, are they available anywhere?
Yeah, Darcy. So they're on our All in the Wild YouTube channel. So you can find them on our All in the Wild YouTube channel. I loaded them up there. They're public. Some of my videos there have a description. These I just loaded up, and they are available for the public to look at. Yeah. And I'll leave them there for you, Darcy.
Right. Okay. And same with this, right? You were also, you mentioned that earlier, you're going to publish this on your YouTube channel.
Yeah. Minus the first part.
Yeah, the first little test run.
Yeah.
John is asking, how far off the shoreline of land were you when you're out on the ice? Like, how far out? So,
Ooh, can I show a video about that? No, I won't show a video. John, there's a video online. Let me see what it's titled, just so you have it. It's called Arctic Cold Floating to Greenland. We're not too far off the land when we're out on the ice, because we're in a series of islands, and that those islands are very near where the ice floe edges. So we can't go too much farther without really risking that the ice could break off. The currents are changing, the winds are strong, the ice could break off and we could float away. So we're not too far off land where things are a little bit more stable. If you get further and further out there, you get into more and more dangerous areas. And when I first started going up, we traveled to some pretty far away places. And we don't do that anymore. We kind of let the bears come to us. The bears are constantly moving, and they're going through areas and coming back. And so you can go out and go a long ways, or you can wait for them to come to us. So, yeah, good question.
Yeah, I guess to add to that, with the experience of with your guy David, has he ever experienced anything like that? Like,
yeah, he told me a story that was incredible. Basically, when he was a young boy, 14, he was hunting with his dad along the ice floe edge. And the currents came up and basically broke the ice off. And he and his dog team went floating out into the ocean. And 14 years old, he's floating out in the middle of the Arctic Ocean on an ice pan. Luckily, the winds turned and blew him back in, and his dad was there to pick him up. Him and his dad were hunting together, and his dad wasn't on that same ice pan. And incredible, like I told you earlier, they just go, they're a culture that really just deals with the situation. He was 14. What could he do? And when we were out recently a couple of years ago, we were out and the wind was blowing. This bear had come to camp, and it was an opportunity for us to go out in a blizzard and photograph near camp. So we followed out. It was mom and cubs. Weathering the Storm is the name of the image. And as we were out there, at one point, David came over to me and he said, Jason, he said, if you see a bunch of steam come up, keep looking back towards camp. If steam comes up, he goes, get on your snowmobile. Don't worry about me. Just get back to camp. I said, David, what are you talking about? Well, the winds are so strong. The currents are very, very, the tide is high. The currents are strong as well. We're at risk that the ice could break off. And he laughed. We could be floating to Greenland. I said, Dave, let's go back to camp.
Yeah, so that, I guess, leads to this question from, I think it's Erica, I think. I'm having trouble. Sorry, I'm just stumbling. So I'm just going to read the question. Is there a way that we can be trained and come with you on your excursions?
Oh, wow. Holy. Is there a way that you can be trained and come on the excursions? Unfortunately, there was one year when a film crew was going to come up with me, and something happened last minute where they couldn't get across the border into Canada. That was the year that bear charged me, and David stopped it 6 feet away from us. If a film crew had been there, my worry is that someone would have been injured and maybe fatally. So after that, I've had people ask me, and I think, the friends up there that I go with, I think they all kind of feel the same, that we'd really have to have really experienced people and really well trained to be able to deal with something like this. And, it's a tough environment. I'm not prepared to take anyone and have their life in my hands. I'd love to take you other places, but that's on the high end of photography. This is really extreme photography. For anybody who's still with us, 80 people here, it's really extreme photography, you guys.
I think I've talk to you about this, and Meredith has a question, so I'll just take over my thoughts here. So what's the nearest community? Like, how far? Like, you're obviously, again, related to this. You're out there. You're out in the middle, sort of like the middle of nowhere, right?
Yeah, we're out in the middle of nowhere. We're 16 hours from the nearest community, and we snowmobile out to that area, and that's where you get away from a lot of kind of, you know, civilization and people, and where the bears are living just their lives. So we're quite far away from the nearest community. Yeah.
Monica has another question asking, can you tell if you've seen a bear before? If you've had?
Yeah, that's a great question, Monica. You know, you can't. You know, people say these bears are white. They actually have a yellowish tinge to them. And because they're moving so much and we're only there for 2 weeks, no, all I can say is that you can generally, and this would be very arrogant of me to say, so I won't say it, but I'll say what I would think I was going to say, or what I planned to say, and that was that you can generally get a sense of the bear's attitude. You know, they're kind of a little bit like humans, like, you know, everyone is different. But actually you can't. But some genres, like middle-aged males, just, you know, they're at that teenage phase. They're a little feisty, so we just leave them alone. But we've had mother bears that don't want to cooperate as well, and have gotten aggressive towards us, even though initially they didn't seem to be that way. So those bears, we just leave them alone. We only photograph bears that are comfortable with us being present, and we're comfortable with them. And that takes a long time. You don't just get there. It takes some time to get there. Yeah.
Okay. An equipment question from Dennis. Do you have camera equipment problems at those extreme temperatures, 30 degrees?
Yeah, Dennis, great question. You know, we're very careful with the equipment. Going from cold to warm temperature is the most complicated thing. I've had condensation build up on the inside of my big lens a few times now. You have to get them in dry bags when you move them from the cold into the warm building. They have to be completely sealed. If there's any amount of warm air that gets in there before they warm up in that bag, you have got an issue, even though this is high-end Nikon equipment. Battery-wise, they're always in my pockets that are up against my body, staying warm. So always, yeah.
Getting a message here that we only have about 5 minutes left, so we'll maybe just go through as many of these questions. And I have put up at the top of the chat, you may have noticed already, I put Jason's email. Jason, we just want to confirm I didn't do any spelling. So if you do have any other further questions, you can email Jason. But all the time that we have, we'll fill it up with questions here. So let's move on. Do you Photoshop your pictures, or you just choose the best ones?
Yeah, I just choose the best ones. I don't use Photoshop in my work. Of course, we process all the images and such, but I come from a film background, so they have to be a pure image. That's kind of my rules. If we could do it in a dark room, then that's the process we do in Photoshop, and our staff that works in that department knows that and came from printing film photography. So yeah. Kim, I think we should wrap it up because we're going to get cut off here perhaps. And I want to do a decent farewell to everyone. Thank you for everyone who stayed on. Incredible evening. Really appreciate it. And Kim, thank you. You were an awesome moderator. Really good. And thank you everyone for all the questions. Wow, that was incredible. There was a lot of interaction there. And we want to know, email me if you want more of these and the topics you want me to cover. Just please give me information. Tell more people. We had a few hundred people tonight, and we'd love to grow this to a few thousand, right? We're all here for you. All in the Wild's always here, and we appreciate you being a part of learning about polar bears. Wow, look at the chat coming up. Thank you again. Thank you all. Thank you, Kim. And everybody, good night. Stay safe, and there's better times coming. keep positive, and Canada, keep doing what we're doing. We're really doing a great job in this country to really pull together and be a community right now. And I'm just so darn proud of that. So thank you, everyone. Keep loving nature, respect nature. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you, Kim.
Thank you for the invite, Jason.